What's up, everybody? Shane SantaCroce here, and as always, we're here to make it happen. This is our first podcast of this series, actually the first podcast we're doing in general, so I have Luke G. Crow here with me today, not only my project manager, one of my business partners, and we're going to do things a little bit differently to give you guys an opportunity to get to know me, get to know the crew, and really what, the whole premise behind all of this is. This podcast can be a little bit different. We are going to talk about a lot of random things, but we are going to do it in different sets of series. So if you have any ideas, feel free to write into us, and let us know. Let us know what you want to hear about. Let us know the type of guests you want to have on. We're going to be open to everything. Obviously, we'll stay within the genre and industries that we work in, but we are pretty much open to speaking about anything, right? So today what we're going to do is have Luke actually interview me so you guys can really get a better understanding of who I am and what we're looking to accomplish. So Luke, welcome. How you doing?
Good. It's been a fun week of shooting. We've had at least 7 or 8 models that's shooting with the agency. A lot of great content. You've talked about doing this podcast for a while, actually. Yeah. I think now's just the best time for you to begin for several reasons. Really, just I want to get into the origin. A lot of people, they meet you and they don't, they get they get their own angle of getting to know you, whether it's real estate, whether it's is this far enough or close enough, rather? Okay, cool. They get the real estate angle, they get the pageant modeling side, they get the mentor side, the coaching side. How did you really just begin in entrepreneurship in the first place? Let's just kind of unpack this from the very beginning.
So I'll just go, we'll start all the way back from like my original first job, right? I was literally 12 years old, and I got a job as a dishwasher in a restaurant, and I got a job because I had to. My mom was a single mom. My dad was a drug addict out doing his thing. So, I was hungry. So was my sister and my mom. So I started working as a dishwasher, and shortly after, there was a need for a cook, ironically. None of the chefs had shown up. So I jumped in, started cooking, and, when I got my first paycheck, I remember that feeling like it was yesterday. Like, that was my money. I had put time into something. But then I started thinking at this early age, after, maybe 6-8 weeks, I'm sitting pumping out all this food and getting these little checks for a couple $100s. How much money was he making? Right? I'm serving all these people all day long. How much money was he making? So that was always in the back of my mind. And I just started working other odd jobs. I bought my first lawnmower when I was 13 years old. I was going literally door to door by myself after school on weekends, knocking on doors, cutting lawns for $20. And by the time I was 15, I had basically every one of my friends working for me. I had a little trailer that we used to pull around on a freaking quad around the neighborhood. It was a pretty interesting setup. But I ended up selling that at 15 years old. Little did I know what I sold it for $3,500. And I bought a trailer. I lived in the trailer park at that time, so I bought a trailer. I fixed up a little bit, and I sold it for $12,000. So that was really my first true, entry into entrepreneurship and business ownership. Through my teens, I had done a lot of stupid shit. Not necessarily stuff that I should probably be talking about publicly on a podcast, but I did what I had to do to get by. But I always had a job, and I always had my own business. So I just
So you were actually cooking at 12 years old in a restaurant?
It was called the Arrowhead Deli in Davie on University Boulevard. And my actual first true chance in the restaurant business. And I used to travel back and forth in the season for the hospitality business. I worked on the boardwalk at 13. I actually made a fake birth certificate. Brian Sharp and Marty, if you guys ever hear this podcast, I appreciate you guys. You guys definitely put me on. But I was 13 years old. I made a fake birth certificate, worked for half the summer, got caught halfway through because my birthday was May 5th, right before the summer started. I had turned 13, got caught halfway through. But my work ethic was so on point at that age. He's like, look, we're not happy with what you did, but the fact that you actually did that was pretty impressive, and you're one of the best employees we have at 13 years old. So when you turn 14 next year, come back and you have a job for as long as you want it. And I ended up working there every summer for many years, actually. And, it was a pretty cool experience. But I always had my own thing on the side, whether it was, not the most legitimate situation or my own business. I always had something else, going.
So then when did you first start your first business, your first entrepreneurial effort where you actually hired another person or started scaling that into something else? Was it in your teenage years, or at some point you transitioned from those odd jobs to something that was more sustainable for yourself, right?
Yeah, once I really hit my later teens, I had gotten into some trouble right around 1999, 2000, some legal trouble. And I'd gotten out, and when you have a felony on your record, especially not dozens, but quite a few of them, it's very difficult to get a job in the corporate world. Now, I had a great experience. I was an amazing sales professional, amazing leader. So I just went door knocking.
How old were you when you got the felonies?
I was sentenced in 2000, so it was 22 years ago, so right around 21 years old, right? I had gotten in trouble a couple years prior, and just everything kind of caught up with me around that time.
What'd you get in trouble for, and how long were you?
So in New Jersey, burglary and a handful of other things, which it's actually an interesting story, which I can unpack that for you because it's not as bad as it sounds. But, it was still a crime I shouldn't have done. And then in South Florida, when I came back here, a lot of credit card fraud, organized fraud, forgery, theft, kind of more of that blue-collar crime type stuff. But it was a very interesting situation that I went through those years. Getting in trouble at that age, getting put in the Dade County Jail on the 5th floor, which nobody else had a bond. Right. So when you're in jail and you have no bond, you're in jail with other people with no bonds. They weren't stealing credit card numbers and, sending people out shopping. They were murderers and rapists and home invasion. I mean, the criminals I did time with were very hard, very hard. But I got through it. It is what it is. Some very serious lessons I learned in life there. And when I got out and I tried to get a job, I had 10 years probation. My first offer was 14 years in federal prison. That was my deal, and obviously I wasn't thrilled with that. And we just kept fighting it, and I ended up getting 10 years probation with a minimum mandatory of 40 years. So I couldn't do anything wrong. So I figured I need to get a job. I can't keep doing the stupid shit I was doing. I need to get a job. So I tried. Went to all these places, interviewed. They loved me, and then I get that phone call from HR. Oh, well, after your background check, we're so sorry. You don't really fit the requirements necessary here. So I just said enough's enough. I was working in the restaurant business. I was making very, very good money. I was a show tender, worked for Darden Restaurants, opening up restaurants and behind the bar. Did some nightclub stuff, and got an opportunity to get into the title insurance business. Started making ridiculous amounts of money, rolled that into the mortgage industry, where I was basically running a business within the business. So I was managing and hiring my own people, training them, and just built massive teams of people over the course of time through that industry. And I never looked back. From there, I went into loan modifications and many other industries. But at that point, by the time I was in my mid-20s, I wasn't really working for anyone. I had my own business, my own consulting firm, management companies, and I was going and working with companies within them as my own entity.
So let's back up a little bit. What's the best career business job you'd recommend for somebody who has no other options, who maybe like you just got out of jail or just had a rough situation, somebody who they're just at ground zero? Is it always sales? Is it door knocking? Is it phones? High tickets? What's the thing that because you have this limited amount of time, right? Yep. So what's the thing that they should tackle right off the bat?
Look, sales in any aspect, I don't care who you are, sales has no ceiling, right? It is the absolute best industry you could be in, and it has a negative connotation in many aspects because of shady salesmen. But if you really want to make money and not have a limit, get into the sales industry. And this whole theory about salesmen are born, not made, in the early parts of my career, I used to believe that because I had this like innate natural gift to sell. But as I started learning actual sales tactics, right? Reading some of the greats like Tom Hopkins and Robert Kiyosaki and understanding more about financial literacy, real management as opposed to real leadership. There's so much more that you can learn. So when I started working with sales professionals, you didn't need experience. Let me teach you. Let me teach you how to talk. Let me teach you how to engage and how to bring somebody to that closing table, right? So if you're really wondering what you should do, sell anything. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the product or service is, you're selling yourself. So if you learn how to engage with people properly, sales is absolute the best industry you could be in.
Should you immediately get a sales job selling something that's very expensive or something that is easier to get started right off the bat?
Look, I think it really depends on your comfort level, but why start small, right? If you're going to go for it, jump in. No company you're going to work with that has a big ticket item is going to just put you on and let you screw it up anyway. They're going to start you somewhere, make you cold calls or whatever nonsense you have to do to put in your time. So you're going to get the training anyway to get to the big ticket. So there's no point of going through all that for a small ticket item, then being retrained for a big ticket item. Now, if your only option is the small ticket item, take it. Take the job, run with it, learn. Work to learn, not to earn. The money will follow. Focus on the outcome. The income is always going to show up at the end.
What's the worst sales job, the worst sales experience you ever had?
Oh, God. God, I have sold just about anything. I guess for me with sales, it's hard to say what the worst sales job would be. I could talk about some of the products that I sold that were pretty shitty, but every sale I've ever made, I loved. I loved that the interaction between somebody and taking a product or service and educating them enough to make a decision to say yes. Now, what I can say is early on, it didn't matter what it was. If you wanted me to sell plastic cups or sewage systems, like I would sell it. It didn't matter the quality of it. It didn't matter the service. I would sell it. As I got older, I started to realize that I needed to take pride in what I was selling, because if I had pride in what I was selling, the sales were so much easier. Because you're not going to convince me you're not going to buy it, because I'm giving you absolute best service, the best product, the best whatever. So try to find something that you actually believe in, right? But I remember selling vacation packages when I was real young. I had just got out of trouble. It was the first sales job I'd gotten after getting into trouble. So I was probably, I was out on bond. I was 20 years old, somewhere around that age, and I was selling some shady room in somewhere in Miami. This woman, it was like, she was probably a 45, 50-year-old woman who was basically just trying to sleep with all the young salesmen. So I think that's why she opened the company, just to be a cougar. I wish I could remember her name. Anyway, so you had these cruise packages that you would sell, some kind of certificate, and that certificate would get them access to a cruise, but it was like $300, $400, $500. But there was upsells where you can actually sell the whole cruise up to $10,000, $12,000, $20,000. So the key for us as the new guys, right, was to sell the certificate. Sell the certificate for $199, and then the closers would then take over and do the upsells. And then they ended up getting someone who just paid $199, who'd always want to lose it. Next stage would be like $599, and then before you know it, they're spending $10,000, $12,000 or financing a $20,000 cruise with a family. Well, when I saw the commission structure, right, I wanted the big pieces. So I said, screw it. I just started selling, and I just literally followed the same sales cycle as if it was being passed off, and I was just closing out deals. So my average in my first week was like $2,500 a deal instead of $199. And I was selling 5, 12, 8, whatever packages. So it obviously got the attention of the whole office. Everybody was hating on me because I was supposed to hand those deals off. And they felt that they lost money because they didn't get the opportunity to close that deal. In my opinion, they wouldn't have closed it anyway because half of them were shit salesmen. But I did. So, of course, this woman really started paying attention to what I was doing and then making me a team leader. So the product itself was probably the worst product I've ever sold, because at the end I found out that after even paying her, they then had to pay the cruise lines for some other fees or whatever it was. So that was probably the worst product, the shadiest product I've ever sold. God, I don't know if I should admit this live, but when I was 14 years old, I worked in a call center in New York. So when I was up there, I would go into the city during the week instead of going to school sometimes and work in this call center selling stocks. Probably not the most compliant thing I've ever done in my life at 14 years old, right? But made a lot of money. Definitely made a lot of money, so that was interesting. So those are probably the two, the shadiest and the shittiest products I've ever sold.
What's your opinion on following the rules? I mean, obviously you've done a lot of things that weren't necessarily completely okay and by the book. Do you feel like you do have to kind of live by your own set of rules if you're 14 and you need to get a sales job and do what you need to do? Or do you feel like people necessarily shouldn't follow in your exact path?
I mean, my path was very tough. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. But it definitely made me who I am, so I don't really regret the things I've gone through. But you do pay for you're going to pay the price at some point in life. I paid the price. I went to jail. I was in jail in New Jersey. I was in jail in Florida. I have felonies on my record. I do have clemency now, so my rights have been restored. But, that's a big pill to swallow as you're growing up trying to grow in life and just being shut down because of something you did. I did the crimes really more as a teenager than anything. So you definitely have to make your own rules. And if you plan on breaking any rules, be 100% prepared to take those consequences. And I think that's really the issue. And look, as a kid, telling a kid like, hey, you shouldn't do that because it's not right, you can get in trouble, a year from now, 5 years from now, 25 years from now, you're going to be paying for that, right? And he's like, Yeah, but my mom's hungry now. Like, the lights are off. There's no water. Like, that was a situation. We lived in my mom's car for a brief period of time, right? So how do you tell somebody that's just trying to feed their family not to do something that's going to feed their family? You know? So I believe do your absolute best to get it the right way, all right? I'm not going to tell you should do it the wrong way, but I'm also not going to tell you to feed your family. So maybe it's a little controversial, and a lot of people won't necessarily agree with that. But, you know, you're going to do what you have to do in life, period.
Yeah, I understand that. When did you go from deciding that you couldn't just get to where you want to be by doing your own sales, and you needed to either hire salespeople, train salespeople, build a team? At what point did you flip that switch?
It was actually a very interesting transition for me. And I can go through the different industries that it took place in. But ultimately, as a sales professional, I realized leads were key, right? Glengarry Glen Ross, right? The Glengarry leads. So if you didn't have decent leads, you couldn't close. So I said, you know what? Let me look into leads.
The leads aren't shit. You're shit.
Exactly. And the reality is, I mean, I've had sales jobs where I literally had a phone book. For those of you young ones out there, we actually used to have a phone book that you have to open up and go page by page, alphabetical order, and find businesses, people, whatever. The yellow pages and the white pages. We didn't have Google. So I used to go down phone book page and just randomly calling people trying to sell. Like, that's literally what it was. So for me, anyone's a lead. But if you provided at least a warm lead or cold lead, just something that at least showed any type of inclination that you could sell them, right? Well, then the sales ROI would increase. Then if you had somebody who's a warm lead, it went up even more. Hot lead, forget about it, right? So I'm like, you know what? Let me start producing leads for the mortgage industry, right? Because that's the industry I was in, and I was buying ridiculous amounts of leads. So I started generating leads. So I stopped focusing on the sales, and I started generating leads, and nothing changed. I thought that was very interesting. And then people were complaining about my leads. I said, wait a minute, hold on. I'm producing the lead. I'm not buying them and reselling them. They're exclusive. I know the value. How are you not closing these leads? So then I started offering a service to say, I'm going to listen to your phone calls and tell you what your sales guys are doing wrong for free. So now I started analyzing and consulting on the companies on how to close my leads. Then they had to start writing scripts. Then I had to start implementing reporting, phone systems, CRMs, etc.
What niche? What offer was this?
This was health insurance, mortgages, loan modifications, debt settlement. I had all types of clients. But I realized now, okay, I can't just produce the leads, and I can't just do the sales, and I can't just do the management reporting. So let me build it all out. So that's kind of how it all started. I literally transitioned from doing sales into creating leads, realizing how important everything was to coincide together. So I just started offering the full package. Listen, I'm going to come in and do everything. So I started building teams within each industry I was working in that was specifically specializing on that product. We would start writing the scripts, building out the sales process, the structure, the deal flow, the whole nine. And that's how I picked up our clients. So it's a very interesting transition.
And then at that point, you doubled down on real estate as the niche, or?
So real estate, I've always kind of somewhat been involved in real estate. I did the mortgages, I did title insurance. I still obviously do it now. Then I started getting into the loan modification aspect of it. Did very, very well with that. Then they changed that law, so I moved over to the foreclosure defense side of it, building law firms. Did very well with that. And then I just really stayed within the distressed property niche. So I've always had real estate projects working through my whole career. I've never stopped working with real estate. Sometimes it's more time than others. I would focus on other projects as opposed to real estate.
So for people that don't know, what exactly is distressed property?
So distressed property are people that are struggling. So let's just say somebody, COVID hits, you can't pay your mortgage, you're about to lose your home, the homeowner association is foreclosing on you, or the bank, whoever. What do? You have to leave. You're going to get nothing in your hand. So originally I was helping people stay in their property. And ironically, they made that illegal. So if I help you stay in your home, I can go to jail. But if I take your home from you and give you money to leave, that's okay. So, hey, you're stuck. Here's $10,000. Help you move on. Give me the deed to your property. Oh, yeah, but I have $2 million in IRS liens. I got, $800,000 on mortgage, HOA liens, a second, the whole nine. What do we do? Doesn't matter. I'll still give you the $10,000. Give me the deed. I'll fight all that. So because I knew title insurance and I knew mortgages, I knew loan modification, I knew foreclosure defense, it was the perfect thing. It was a perfect niche. So the government, as they tried to move everybody out of the industry, just basically set one up for me. And nobody else knows how to do it because I was so well versed in everything else. Our teams and my partner who stayed in the industry the entire time, all these years, we've now perfected this model. So I could go into somebody, for an example, we just bought that property in Brickell. It's a $2.1 million condo, 3,800 square feet, beautiful overlooking Fisher Island in Brickell. I literally gave the guy $10,000 for this property. He only has a $650,000 mortgage, but he's got $2 million in IRS liens. He had a second, and he had HOA. I bought out the second. I bought out the HOA, settled with them both. Now I control both those aspects. Now I have to fight with the IRS and the bank. So I'll work to settle something with the bank. I'll work to fight with the IRS, and I end up having a $2 million property.
And it doesn't sound simple, but it is that easy. Or it's simple, but not easy.
It would be simple for somebody who really knows what they're doing. And this is why I don't share that secret sauce, right? So even my attorneys, they work in-house. I don't sub it out. But there really is a big opportunity for people to get involved with that side of things. We're probably doing a course real soon on it as well to help people get involved. But the number one thing, if you're listening out right now and anybody's in the real estate industry, they're going to say, oh, this is nonsense. You can't fight a foreclosure or any of these issues if you're not the original owner of the property, because once you do the change, now there's a problem. Well, that's the secret sauce. That's why I'm doing well and you're not. That's why we have 140 properties right now, and we have 12 years of case law that we've won, including Supreme Court. So we've about 25% of the properties we win free and clear. We've had mortgages voided, mortgages settled literally for pennies on the dollar. I go on and on and on. But it's a very interesting niche that nobody else can touch us in right now.
So how would somebody get into that?
How would somebody get in? I mean, the first step really would be to reach out to us, because you're not going to work with somebody else that can provide the back-end service that you need to provide. So we can do that. We'll provide that back-end service, and it's just about finding the right property. So we can train you how to go out and bird dog these properties, bring them in. We'll even fund the property for you. So like I said, we're going to be doing a course soon to allow people to get involved in this. But they can reach out to me now. And before we do that, I could teach them how to get involved. They bring the properties. We close the deals. They get paid. Real simple.
What other projects do you have going on?
Well, I still have the title insurance project going on. I'm actually building out a team of women for that project. I'm just going to take 10 entrepreneurial mindset women and put them into this professional environment to go out and build a title insurance sales platform, bringing in title insurance to our title insurance company. Shout out TiK Title. We love you guys. So that's our back end processing we're working with right now. So that we have that project going. We have the content house we're building out right now. Looks like we'll be in Lighthouse Point, giving all of our models and OnlyFans models the opportunity to come in and shoot content on a regular basis, live right there with a videographer and photographers, editors on site, just coming and going constantly. So that's a pretty good project we're working. We have our parties that we do, we have our networking events that we do, we have our trainings that we do. So we have quite a bit of stuff going on right now.
How do you manage all your different projects and keep them on track and keep them organized?
The right people. I cannot stress enough how important it is to have the right people around you. I mean, look, you and I met you randomly, at a party a couple years ago that we were putting on for your birthday, and I saw your strengths, right? It's something that I needed, something that you provided. Let's talk. I know what I don't know. And I think that's really a big mistake people make in business is they want to be everything. You really have to know what you don't know and find the people that do. Allow them to build that foundation. Allow them to run with it and make sure it's running properly. Learn enough to know what you're talking about and enough to lead your team, but allow those that do it great to continue to do it great. How
much do you build a team from the ground up versus find the right person for the job right away? Have you ever gone through the process of really building people up? Because I've probably hired just over 100 people at this point, and it's an interesting process to decide. Do you throw good money after bad at some point? Do you hire slow and fire fast? Right, at a certain point, you have to decide. Well, what's the right path of building people up to then the point where they either walk away, they either then do something that they're not worthy then to be on your team, or do you really feel like you can train people into the person that you need them to be? On the other hand, you can also just go out and find the right person for the job right away. Where do you lie on that? Where do you stand? So I'm right in the middle. I lean much more towards finding people that have no experience and training them. If you have the work ethic and the passion and drive,
I can teach you everything you need to know, right? Now, if it's a very specific field or a very specific type of knowledge that I need from somebody that I can't teach them, then I'll go find that person. But that person has to be really open-minded into working within our, core values in our business. Positivity, mindset that doesn't allow for, negativity in the office, and really understanding that, look, you might know this, but I'm going to make it better. You're going to give me a foundation of this very specific thing that you're good at, and I'm going to make it better. I'm going to turn those dials. I'm going to really focus in, increase the efficiency, increase the bottom line, and increase the level of service and quality of service or product that we're putting out. So that's when I'll go out and reach out to those people, and those people are more of in a leadership role. So if I find the right leader, then I can build a team from scratch underneath them.
So what do you do when there is a problem? I mean, I feel like every time we talk, there's a new problem or a new situation that arises. One thing I really respect about you is you don't seem to get too caught in your own head. You don't seem to get too emotional. That was something that definitely took me a while to learn when I was first dealing with different problems I had to handle. It was really compartmentalizing, right? You have kids, I have kids. Not letting a problem with someone who works for you, somebody who works around you, a client, whatever it might be, and then also not letting it affect the way that you then speak to your children, the way that you then speak to other people. How do you kind of compartmentalize everything that is going on?
One real simple mentality, right? Look at it like this. Say you're driving down the road, you get a flat tire. There's a nail in it. What are you going to do? You can go fix a tire. You don't ditch the car, right? You don't get rid of the car and then the whole car is just dead. Get a new car. So if you have a bad moment in the day or the week or the month or even the year, right? You're not going to ditch the whole day or the week or the whole month or the whole year. You have to just realize that whatever took place already happened. You can't change it. Address it, accept it, and move on. That's the end of it. And then you're right. When you have multiple businesses, when you're working with multiple people, you have multiple children, multiple exes, there's always going to be something to deal with. Yesterday, my day was ridiculous, right? There was always something to deal with, but you cannot change what has happened. You can only address it. So once I see there's a problem, I accept that problem and I start working towards a solution.
I mean, even yesterday, the amount of things that happened that you could just flip out or freak out over was endless.
I could go on and on for days. I mean, and how I ended my night is, unfortunately, I thank God that she's okay. Somebody rolled my Jeep. Very, very expensive Jeep, which I already had an offer to sell, right? Everybody loved that Jeep. And, 8:30 at night, was driving, shouldn't have been driving, and she was trying to bring it to me to do me a favor. Tried to convince her not to do me that favor, but she was persistent, and she rolled it over the top of a guardrail and totaled the Jeep, completely totaled the Jeep. Walked away with nothing but a bruise on her arm. Thank God. I'm grateful, so I could care less about the Jeep. But that's at 8:30 at night while I'm shooting, right? While we have models at the content house getting content, dealing with all that. Why my car was actually in the shop for some nonsense. I don't even know what. So it just goes on and on and on. Plus I had some family stuff going on, some kid stuff. I'm dealing with a legal battle with my ex for my daughter. I have full custody of. So just a lot of nonsense that you're right, that typically would throw somebody completely off their day. So I'd rather take the 10, 15, 20, or 60 minutes to address that situation and see if I can come up with a solution and move on to the next, as opposed to then just completely destroy my entire day.
What if it's a work situation? How do you, there's definitely, I remember you had an assistant, right? I don't know if you want to get too specific, but you had an assistant that was, that you had loved the performance of, and then at a certain point you don't. How do you decide to let that person go? How do you decide to coach them through it? At what point, where do you have such that, lack of emotion to actually solve these problems?
So I have had thousands and thousands of staff members or subordinates or employees over the years. And I've never fired one person. And people are like, how's that possible? Like, I watched you terminate them and walk them out of the office. No. You saw me explain the situation to them in which why they lost their job. I had no reason to fire them. Outside of COVID, I have never had a reason to fire someone or to get rid of them that they didn't bring upon themselves. Period. That's just 100% fact. So I don't have an issue sitting down with somebody and saying, listen, this is what you did. I tried working with you A, B, C, and D ways, None of them worked. You are unteachable. Whatever the situation may be, we just don't work together well. And I set that expectation in the beginning. So look, I may not be the easiest person to work with everybody. I'm a fast talker. I'm aggressive. People tell me intimidating. I don't think I'm intimidating. I think I'm a pretty nice guy overall. But I get that a lot. Oh, I didn't want to come to your office because you're so intimidating. And years later, people will tell me, I worked with me for 8 years, like, well, Shane, you're just so intimidating. Or the first 4 years, I was just so afraid when you walked in the room or spoke to you. And, when you get to know me, I don't feel that I'm that way, but they are. So in the very, very beginning, I set the expectation, we're going to work together. You may be great for this team. You may not. It may be you. It may be me. Who knows what the problem is? But if there's a problem, we'll try to work through it. If we can't work through it, we will work how we move on. And that's the end of it. So there's an expectation set there, And, I have employees. One thing, too, is I accept human nature a lot. I accept people for who they are. People are going to make mistakes. If you continue to make the mistake, is it intentional or are you just stupid, right? And when I say, are you just stupid, I don't mean that in, not necessarily a negative way. You're just not getting it. You're not paying attention or you don't care enough to pay attention because it's my money, not yours, right? So I accept human nature. I accept people will make mistakes. And typically when you're the top guy, those mistakes cost you money, not someone else, right? So you're going to have to accept those losses and keep those losses to a minimum.
What's up next for you? What type of guests do you want on your podcast? What are the projects you're focusing on? What's the rest of 2022 look like?
So this year we're really going to focus heavy on our OnlyFans management platform. So I know OnlyFans has such a negative connotation around it, but none of our girls do anything new to begin with, right? But they're very, very classy. They're educated. I feel every woman has a beautiful element to them, whatever it may be. So we're going to really show that and allow these women to present themselves to their clients and their fans in a way that they feel comfortable without all this heavy pressure of you need to do nude or you need to do porn, you need to do this. You don't need to do anything that you don't feel comfortable with, right? And when you see somebody on camera that's truly comfortable in what they're doing, that content and that engagement with their fans is so much better. And that's what the fan wants. Real, true, comfortable engagement, right? It'd be great. You see a picture of the tits or whatever that some guys want to see, but if you really want to have a fan base that is enjoying what you're doing, you have to build it the right way. So that's what we're really focusing on this year. The real estate project, obviously, it's something I'm always focusing on. But as far as anything new, the OnlyFans platform is definitely the one that we're going to be focusing on right now in 2022.
I love it. All right, guests. Who do you want to interview? What do you want this podcast to niche down on? Do you want it to be a wide array? You can just knowing you being, we're partners on a project, we're friends. You obviously have a wide array of people that you could be interviewing. Do you want this to be more general, or do you want this to be focused on business? Where are you at with that?
So it's going to be general, but we're going to have series that will be focused on a specific industry, niche, subject, whatever. So I want to really be open enough to people ask me, hey, I would love to hear you talk about this. And then we might do a 4, 6, or 8 week series specifically on that subject. So that's really how I want this to go. And I'll bring guests in based on what that subject is. And I might have a few celebrity friends that might come on and say hi and make it a little interesting, right? But it's going to be a general podcast, but it will be broken into a series of different types of subjects based on what the fans are looking for.
What can they expect? How often do you plan on releasing?
I think we're going to do this every week. We're going to get in here every week. We're going to put some content out. We're going to get some good information out there. We'll put some educational stuff out there. We'll get some motivational stuff out there. We're going to hear a lot from the models. We'll have them in here a lot. I would love to get a series where we see them today, just starting their OnlyFans, and where they are a year from now. And if it's not OnlyFans, their TikToks or their IGs or their, whatever their personal brand may be. We have personal trainers, we have attorneys, we have surgeons, you name it. So whatever their personal brand ends up being, I'm going to show you a little bit of that. I will talk about some of the lifestyle that we live, doing all this stuff. Some of the educational platforms we put out for people. We obviously mentor a lot of people as well, men and women. So I really want to be open to discussing just about anything that the fans really want to hear about.
That's great. I love it. In terms of your mentorship, who do you choose who you mentor? And 2, what's your overall process in general for how you've mentored people in the past? So
how I choose people is I don't. They fall into my path, and if I feel that it makes sense, we work together. So I don't market myself as a mentor. I don't, somebody even said today, I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm kind of a mentor to them. And one of my girls stopped me. She's like, no. You are my mentor, right? Like, she was very clear on that, So it's one of those things that I never really thought about doing, like, necessarily as a business or an offer. Now I'm taking it a little more serious, just realizing the impact that I have had on people's lives, and especially personally, not only professionally. So I don't really go out to pick. When I do start kind of thinking maybe this is something I'm going to work with, it's all about mindset. Are you open-minded? I'm going to make decisions that I feel in your best interest. I'm not always right. I'm going to, at least at the time when I make that decision, I'm going to do it because I think it's what's best for you. And if you have the mindset and the work ethic behind it, we're going to move forward. It's kind of that simple. And the premise behind it to make it happen, I guess the 8 pillars to make it happen, right? How do we do that? Setting goals. How do you make a change, an actual change in your life? You can't just wake up one day and say, I'm changing this. And that's the end of it. Very, very small success rate in people that actually do that. But understand that you could set daily goals that turns into habits. Now, habits, 21 days to make or break a habit. So you set daily goals that become habits, that become a new way of life. So I teach them how to do that. And it simply starts with a life skills program. Get up early. Here's what you're going to do. Grab a pad and pen, start writing down, and I give them a format on how to get the thoughts out, how to format those thoughts, how to make it into a daily plan. And then it's plan your work and work your plan, right? So every single day you have a guideline of what your day is going to look like. And it really is that simple if you're willing to put the time and effort into it.
What's the time period that you think people should set goals in?
That is very individually based. I have people that we literally have to do every 15 minutes throughout the day until they start getting their life in order. And some people, we can set a goal a day, a goal a week, a goal a month. A lot of personal responsibility and accountability comes into being a goal setter and actually hitting those goals. So how do we make that happen? Where are you today, and where do we need to get you? And then more importantly, where do you want to be, right? Because what you need and what you want are typically very different, right? So I teach them, okay, if your life is completely unorganized, what do you do in the morning? I don't know, I just kind of wake up and float around. Well, we need to change that. The first thing you do in the morning, you should have a goal. And it should be one that you can easily attain and be successful at. Well, what do you mean? Drink water. What? Drink water? Wake up, have a mug, a bottle, whatever, with 16 to 20 ounces of water next to your bed when you wake up. Get up, just drink that water. Why? Well, number one, you're dehydrated because you just slept for 8 hours. You don't go 8 hours throughout the day without drinking water, right? So you need the water. Number two, you just successfully completed your first goal of the day. Done. Get up, go to the bathroom, put some water on your face, take a shit, whatever you normally do in the morning, go to the bathroom, come back and make your bed. Why? Because goal number 2, you successfully made your bed, right? Very, very simple things that you can do. And then we just go from there. When you're going to eat, when you're going to work out, when you're going to go to work, whatever your day consists of, right? And again, that we might have to start in 15-minute increments, hour increments, 6-hour increments. It really depends on the person and how disorganized their life is and how organized they want it to be.
My core thing that I've done for 14 years is building social circles, right? I teach people, male entrepreneurs or high performers how to network and bring people in through the use of different things like building your U-Army, value arbitrage, creating container events. You're somebody who I realized just very naturally, and then especially after we talked, how you build these container events very well. A lot of people are building their container events just around photo shoots or just around parties. Why and how important is it to you to create actual in real life events, whether it's boating, whether it's a photo shoot, dinners at Hard Rock? You're always pulling people together, and you're very diligent about that. Now, I put a label around it called a container event, but I think a lot of people would see your life and they'd almost miss how many of these you set up and how diligent you are about that. I definitely know people don't, when guys will ask me, hey, how many container events are you doing in a week? And I'll say, that number is always over 7, right? And they're like, well, how's that possible? And I say, well, if I'm going to go to a restaurant, very rarely am I going to go to that restaurant just by myself, right? I'm going to do some sort of sushi dinner. And it might just be 2 girls that I'm interviewing for the agency. It might be 4 guys that probably there's no business dealings that we're ever going to do. But it's 4 guys that maybe I'm pulling together, and then they can make something happen between them. And I'm operating as a connector, which is more than half the time, to be honest. More than half the time, I'm not getting really any direct value out of it, but I'm putting 2 people together, and I'm seeing where that value can go and where they can succeed. Why do you find that, and where's your mindset at when you're creating these group dynamics where people are coming together?
Well, look, number one, again, when I'm creating that specific, and it could, like you said, it could be simply a dinner with 6 to 8 people, and they're all within a specific industry, and there's a networking opportunity there, right? I'm always interested to see where it's going to go. So when I put these events together, I really try to find like-minded individuals and allow the conversation to take place, right? So I'm not going to bring a model and a businessman and a club promoter. I'm going to try to keep at least the mindset similar and really just start a conversation and see where it goes. But the importance of always creating these events, I didn't realize that I was actually, really until I met you, I didn't realize I was creating events. It's my day-to-day. It's how I network. It's how I market. It's how I build my teams and create the synergy between everybody. And when I met you and you started bringing some of your clients around, they were like mind blown. Like, oh my God, this is just what you do on a Wednesday night? I'm like, well, yeah, we're going to do it. Like, you don't want to go? Like, no, how can I come every time? They're mind blown. And this is just something that's a simple dinner I do every Wednesday or every Thursday, or we do the club, or we do a networking event, or like I said, the boating aspect, or whatever it is. And then I started realizing, like, wow, I guess I never realized how important, and I never get any of that stuff on film. I was never taking any content until I met you, right? So all this, and I started realizing how much missed opportunity. So the importance and the value of creating these events, as I was doing, I would say unintentionally for a period of time, now having purpose behind them, it's priceless. I mean, there's no number you could put on doing it.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately for me and my business is that there is a number you can put on it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I've tens of thousands of dollars is what these events are, right? I mean, guys will easily pay. I mean, my core program is my core program is a 5-figure program, and it goes up from there, right?
Yeah.
And I've been building this out literally for 14 years as of 3 days ago, right? And it was funny. It was the 14th year anniversary that I've been doing this. And when I saw you, it was fascinating to me to see that you were doing the base level of it so well. I call the base level the dinners, the things that don't really they don't really tug at your life.
Yeah.
You're gonna go eat anyway. You having dinner with 6 people together, you'd have to do 6 individual networking meetings anyway. Yep. So why not just do it all together? Bringing those 6 people to your favorite steakhouse and building that social proof at that steakhouse, it works in this 2-way street kind of way, meaning the restaurant itself, the manager, the sommelier, the hostess, they're impressed with you because you're bringing those people there. But then the people are impressed with how they treat you, and those people are impressed with how the feedback that they give you, the admiration that they give you,
yep.
Right? And then it just is like this spiral that just builds up and up and up and up from there. Meanwhile, you actually don't have to perform as much. You're not on your soapbox, right? A lot of times a guy will go on a date with one girl, and then he asks, he'll message me later. He'll ask, one of our mutual friends, what should I say to this girl? I didn't really know what to say. Well, if you put yourself on that soapbox, right? You're in this spot where you have to perform. You have to find a way
to navigate this date. Yeah.
You now have to be Mr. Funny Guy.
Yep.
Right? Guys
well, you have to figure out if that's even what she's looking for, because some girls don't like the Mr. Funny Guy, right? So your first thing is like, shit, okay, what does this girl want? Or this, even if it's a one-on-one business meeting or whatever, what personality is this individual looking to see today? And then put that on.
Yeah, and a lot of times the fit just isn't there. So why force that fit either, right?
Absolutely.
I tell guys all the time, never go on a one-on-one first date. It's silly.
Agreed.
It makes
100%.
Zero sense to see it. And they look at me like they literally look at me like they look at me and they say, only Hugh Hefner could do that. Or what kind of guy, a Dan Bilzerian character. And they don't realize that guys all over the world, every strong male friendship that I have, their dates look like general meetups with their friends.
Yeah.
General meetups with their friends are more fun, flirtatious, engaging than most people's dates. It blends together so nicely. And then a lot of times, like guys will see, I mean, I'll do 4 to 10 photo shoots per week, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of guys don't realize that, or a lot of people don't realize in general, that those photo shoots in large part is ambiance. A lot of times those photo shoots are so I'm having a networking meeting in the kitchen, in the bar, in the main area. Well, the photo shoot's just happening all around. And everyone is getting their needs met, but it's a very organic way that transpires. Back to that dinner situation, if you take 6 people out to dinner, everyone's engaging with each other. The pressure isn't on you as much. You're not this person
you
who
can
has to
pop
sit
in
there.
and out when you do. Yeah.
Yeah, you can pop in and out, and I call it the kissing hands and shaking babies approach. If a politician is going into an environment, he acts like he's shaking hands and kissing babies is the expression, right? Unfortunately, there's certain presidents that take a little too literally.
Yeah.
But
that's gonna be for a different series.
But at a certain point, you have to realize there's this expression called a BHAG. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. If you know what your BHAG is, Gary Vee has the Jets. Mm-hmm. Everybody who follows Gary Vee eventually kind of tunes in on how close is he to the Jets. It's the story arc of his life that ties in from the NFTs to everything else that he's doing, V-Friends, and everything else that he's doing in his life. It all has this anchor, this story arc of him and the Jets. Well, everyone has to find their own BHAG. If you don't have something that people can sink their teeth into, then you aren't captivating. You don't have a good frame in your life.
Yep.
There's no game that you can spit to a girl. There's no lines that you can say if you're not captivating. There's
100%.
nothing you can say if you aren't holding your own physical and emotional frame control in an environment. Because what good is the joke going to do? It's going to, even if it's funny, people laugh and then it falls flat. Yeah. If you don't actually have, I call it the pillars of being an elevated man, which is and now it's very specific. Now for me, I'm very specific towards entrepreneur males, high performing males, right? If you don't have your own like for you specifically, one thing I noticed about you is not only the container events that you have dialed in, but your logistics was always perfected. A lot of guys will think that they can do a good sale with a client and it will overcome logistics, or that they can say some jokes or lines to a girl and get that girl to go on a date with him or to be attracted to him, but then their logistics are completely off. With you, I call the ultimate logistics for yourself, it's kind of a funny name, but I call it the pleasure bubble, essentially where every need is met when they're around you, and it just happens without any intervention from you. And I could dive into that at some point on, I have lots of videos about that for myself, but with you, one thing that you always double down on is less convincing people to take an action, and much more, how is every person's personal driver emotion solved? How is every person's motivation completely solved? It's not it's less, and it's not always taking someone to like a fancy steakhouse dinner. Some of the best things I've seen you do, literally, are you cooking.
Yeah,
right? I like this, like, a lot of guys don't realize, like, it's not about taking someone to a fancy steakhouse or popping bottles in the nightclub. It's about making sure people around you are always taken care of. It's being the problem solver. It's about wondering what problems could arise and how can I solve that before someone else. What's the white glove experience that people can have when they're around me?
Per them, right? And I think that's everybody heard the golden rule, right? Do unto others or treat others the way you want to be treated. I don't believe that. I believe in the platinum rule, and I've been talking about this literally in my early 20s, is treat others the way they want to be treated.
There you go.
Why am I going to treat you the way I don't want to be treated? Right? It's not the same. So
you should have led with it. You should have started this conversation with that.
Yeah, exactly, right? But no, like, I'm looking to, what do you want? What are your goals? What are your career aspirations? What do you want to do tonight? Where do you want to go? Like you said, a lot of the girls, if you ask them tonight, what do you want to do? Like, well, can Shane cook? Will Shane cook? Right? They're not going to want to go to the club. They're going to want to go to my house or wherever and have me barbecue or make some Italian food or some pasta or some paella or whatever. Right? They want me to cook. They'd prefer that as opposed to the club or going to a nice fancy restaurant. And some, no, I want to go to a nice fancy restaurant because I want to see the bottles and sparklers and all that kind of wonderful stuff. So that's where that mindset comes, is I know you'd rather do this, right? You'd rather go to a happy hour. You'd rather go to a strip club. You'd rather go to a nice dinner. You'd rather do that. So let's get a few people that would rather do that and bring them all together. And here's another funny, going back to your dating thing, right? When you're one-on-one on a date. And guys, listen to me. Go to a girl that you're interested in talking to, all right? And ask her and her friends on a date. And that might sound difficult, but I promise you, a lot of girls are more inclined to say yes if they're bringing friends because they're going to feel more comfortable anyway. We're going to start there. Number one. Number two, if their friends like you, you're in, my man. Let's call it there. If your friends, you get the friends to like you, you're in. So it's much easier.
The reason why guys don't, the reason why guys have this mentality that is so strange or foreign to them is because they think so. They'll think laterally about their business. They'll think of all the different things in their business that could go wrong, how to solve, marketing, lead gen, fulfillment, whatever it may be. But then with women, they think that it has to be this ethereal vibe. They think there has to be just this emotional thing because in their minds they want to go from the 0 to 1 so fast, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
And then what they don't realize is they're like, oh, why would I want to? I'll tell guys, hey, you get 6 girls' phone numbers in a week. Take them all on 1 date per week, and that way you save yourself a lot of time. You're not, if you're an entrepreneur, think about just the math just doesn't add up to actually being able to live a life like that. Like even going on 2 dates a week, right?
Yeah.
That's 4, 6. How many hours? I mean, even if you do well, how many hours is that's just that you can't focus on anything else? Additionally, at the end of the day, the friendships that you're meeting, the different way those girls are going to interact, the girl that you maybe originally were bringing out and then she brings out several of her friends.
Yeah, you meet the girl you really like.
Usually that's how it works.
Yes,
Usually
exactly.
the girl that you think you like is going to introduce you to the girl
You
that you
actually
should
like.
be with.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. And then that serendipity, that serendipity that kicks in, you're helping along, right? You're creating serendipity for yourself instead of you just swiping on Tinder while you're at home, sitting on your couch, wondering if this girl's right or not, left or right, plus or minus.
Yeah, I never got into the whole online thing. I just first of all, I was with my wife for 14 years, so it's only been a year since we separated. But the whole online dating thing, man, not for me. I don't the whole swipe left, swipe right, and then pop up and see what it is. Having the thrill of meeting somebody and planting that seed and working through it and getting to know them. That's what it's really about. And yes, it's become so easy now for guys and girls, right, to just swipe and get a date and hook up. But man, spend a little bit of time having fun and getting to know somebody. And maybe you don't end up having an intimate relationship with them, but you have a new friend. It's completely different. Like, don't be afraid to put in some work. Put in some work and meet people. Plant some seeds. Last night we were out, right? And the bartender was cool, right? And I was just joking around with her, but I asked her if she was married. She said no. And I said, I just wanted to ask before I start flirting with you, but I just met you tonight, so I'm not going to flirt with you tonight. Now, she was looking for me to flirt with her. You know that. But I didn't. I said, when I come back next time, I'll flirt with you. Just joking, right? Put in the work. You know what I mean? Spend some time. Have fun. You know what I mean? Get to know people, and you never know where that relationship's going to turn. Maybe you end up dating that person. Maybe you don't. Like you said, maybe they introduce you to somebody because, oh, look, I don't really like that guy, but he's such a nice guy. You got to meet him, right? You never know what's going to come out of a relationship. So stop being afraid and stop sitting here swiping. Go out and meet people. Have fun.
Well, put in the work as the example. I mean, there's this expression of, is the juice worth the squeeze? It's back to sales, right? We have a whole sales training and high ticket system inside of our business, and it's interesting, right? I mean, by the time that somebody's working with us for a year, they're easily making $12,000 to $20,000 per month in commission only, right? But on day one, it's significantly lower than that. The first month, $2,000 to $4,000, and the job itself is many more calls, right? Starting out, the quota is 100 calls in a day, right? Now same
with my business.
The call connections and then the calls set. They really only need to set 2 of those calls out of the 100, 2 scheduled set calls, right? That the person attends, and there's 4 stages of salesperson in our business. And going through that whole process, a lot of people who, if I put a message out for recruitment, there's a significant amount of people that want to work, right? That want to work for us. But the amount of people that then hear the initial numbers in that process and they balk at that, it's well over it's about 60. It's not well over. It's about 60% that just immediately kind of turn that down because they want to get to month 11. They want to get to month 12 right away, right? But what other job can you be making with zero experience, $12,000 to $20,000 per month within 1 year?
First of all, as a successful business, you should be losing 3/4 of your recruits. When you do a training class, if you're not losing 75% of the people who sat in that training class, you're not training them properly, period. That training process should be built. Exactly what you're talking about. When they start hearing the numbers, they start hearing the work they have to put in to be successful. 75% of them should be gone before the end of the training class. I do a 2-week training class for my businesses, and guaranteed 50% of them are gone after the end of the first week, 75 by the end of the second. No questions asked every time. And it should be that way, because those are the same people that are going to milk a company for the next 30 to 45 or 60 days until they get caught, and then they're out anyway. People who are not willing to put in the time, whether it's into relationships, friendships, girls, business, if you're not willing to put in the time, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
So we moved into a sales training course. So for every salesperson that gets hired by us, they have to pay us for the training first, right off the bat. Because if they, at the end of the day, we don't want to hire any single sales rep that isn't actually taking our sales training to the point where they value the knowledge enough to actually pay for that knowledge. So we actually charge for our sales training.
That's actually a pretty good model. I like that.
And then we also use that we use at least half of that money to then find other recruits and to find more salespeople to keep that pipeline always going.
I think too now these days everybody's looking to be a millionaire by the time they're 22 years old, and it's just not reality. And I see people like, I think it was Logan Paul. I just saw a post or some podcast he did the other day, and he said between the age of 18 to 22, you should be learning what you want to do, setting goals, and building the foundation for your life. What? Logan, if you ever hear this, bro, you're wrong, my man. You're wrong. And take it from somebody who's, how old he is, I'm probably 15 plus years older than he is. You're fucking wrong, dude. 18 to 22, here's what you should be doing. 18 to 28, throw shit against a wall. See what sticks. Have fun. Enjoy your life. Try every business that you ever thought, every dream you had, go after it. And if it works and whatever sticks, run with it. But to think you're going to have your life figured out at 22 years old, man, you're wrong. You're completely wrong. Most people don't have it figured out at 40. They become millionaires at 55 years old and enjoy the rest of their life. And I know it sounds difficult because I was in that genre. I was fortunate in my 20s to make the money I made, right? But you got to stop thinking it's all going to happen in your 20s. Start setting yourself up by finding out things you love to do, finding industries that you want to be in, and trying it. Try it. And build from there. Build that foundation later on once you really have it. And look, if it pops off for you at 22, great. You're one of the lucky ones. But you can't have the expectation to be making $1 million at 22 years old. It's just not reality. You got to put in time. You have to understand that this is going to be my tomorrow. This is going to be my family. This is going to be my legacy. And you have to put in time to make it happen to get there.
Yeah, I mean the other thing about that is what's the other option, right? So there was a guy I was talking to recently, and he wanted to meet his dream girl very quickly, essentially, right? And he's got a very successful business. He's 26 years old, over $200,000 per month that he's making. And I asked him, how long did it take you to get there? Because there's this most success in life, whether it's in your social circle, your finances, health, wealth, or relationships. It happens slowly and then suddenly, right? People, what they don't realize is it's the success happens slowly, but then all of a sudden it just happens.
It just clicks. Everything clicks.
And then you almost wonder, you're like, wait, why didn't I just do all that before? Why did I just not? You find the right path, and it's always easier than real success happens much easier than the lack of success, right? You're beating your head up against the wall.
Of course.
There's that meme where it's like the two guys with the pickaxe, and the one guy who's closer to the gold is actually turning away.
Yeah.
And the other guy is actually just going forward with it, right? It's probably one of my favorite memes, actually. I have it printed out and hanging in my office in New York, and I like that because it's just so true, right? I mean, the closer you get to that goal, the further away you actually feel like it is, just because you've put in all that effort. It's conscious incompetence is really what it is, right? So the thing I think people really need to realize is, like, in his business life, he went at it for 7 years. On the 7th year, he basically flipped a switch from going in debt or breaking even.
Yeah, it clicked.
To all of a sudden now $200,000 a month. So who cares what those past 6 years were like? I mean, some of the most fun times are when you're sleeping on your friend's couch trying to make something work, and then all of a sudden the thing worked. Now it's a lot better to be sleeping in your mansion, but at the same time, some of those memories are some of those funnest times anyway. So then when it comes to,
but it also sets up your foundation later on in life, because you're going to take hits, right? So understanding that you've done it, you know what it's like to be on that couch. When I made my first money when I was younger, it was probably one of the worst things that ever happened to me. I had a great time and I blew it and did everything else, but when I lost it and having to rebuild was a real pain in the ass, right?
What'd you make and then what'd you spend of it?
Oh my God. I wish I could actually put a number on that. The amount of money that I was blowing in my 20s was it was just so stupid. You know, looking back now, my goals were so different. My goals then was to get a new Lambo and get a new watch and get a new this, get a new that, as opposed to now, it's like setting up my family, creating new businesses, helping other people, you know, start their careers and their brands. So, I mean, it was tens of millions of dollars blown for on nothing, absolutely nothing. And
Do you regret it?
no, I think it was really the best thing that ever happened to me. Losing my first major loss, right, really was the best thing that ever happened because I was living so recklessly. In my 20s, I was living so recklessly. I mean, it would have had to stop somewhere or another. So just having the financial aspect ripped from underneath me due to someone else's mistake, the best thing that ever happened to me. So I don't regret it because it humbled me. It allowed me to know what it's like to live that lifestyle, right? But it also reminded me that it doesn't mean it's going to be there forever, you know? And you value the dollar, and more importantly, you value the relationships that you have much more when you lose everything and you see who's actually there by your side. I'll give you a list of 300 friends that I thought I had then. People whose light bills I paid, child support payments I paid, birthday parties I threw. I can go on and on and on. Would have been homeless, and I gave them jobs. And when the shit hit the fan, there was nobody around. Even now, going through divorce, all these people that I had put on into my trucking companies, into my other businesses, train them to be managers, train them to be successful. I've got a kid who was literally got out of jail, cutting grass and selling newspapers. I convinced him and paid for him to come from New Jersey down here to live with me in my home with his girlfriend so he can get on his feet. Now he's a 6-figure earner, and we don't even talk anymore. You know, so I can give you a list of people that, like I said, even going through this, people who through my marriage would call me every single day, asking me for advice, asking me to borrow money, asking me for opinions, asking me for reference, referrals, job opportunities, you name it. And I was there for them. Haven't even someone just sent me a text message like, hey, I heard you're going through. Is everything okay? Like, are you good? Right? So going through those hard times in my life really, really showed me how to evaluate relationships and understand that it's okay to have those people in your life, but grade them, rate them in some capacity, put a number, put a letter, put a positive or negative, understand the value in your life from those people and keep them in your life appropriately or remove them.
Why do you think people, what's the time? You're at 1 hour. 1 hour? Okay. I could go on for obviously hours and hours.
Let's finish that thought and we'll go from there.
Okay. Why do you think people are so apprehensive to judging the relationships and putting a numerical value to those relationships? Because I think it's absolutely critical and necessary. Not everybody should have. It's like trust, right? You shouldn't trust. Oh, do you trust this person? Do you trust this other person in your life? You trust different people with different things. You trust one friend, with your girl versus another friend with your wallet, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you cannot go through life naively, right? So at what point? Why do you think people have that limiting belief that they think that trust is all encompassing, or that it's bad to grade these and keep score a little bit?
Number one, I think you should remove trust from the equation. You hear people say, oh, Shane, I trust you so much. And I go, don't. Like, you're not trustworthy? I said, no, I didn't say that. I said, don't make it about trust. Let's make sure the relationship is what it needs to be, that you're getting what you need to get. So trust is removed from the equation. Are we going to do business? I don't want to control the money. I don't want you to control the money. Let's have a third party. Why? I don't ever want to question you about money. And if you ever question me about money, I'm going to be offended. So let's have a third party do it. Now we don't have to trust each other. See how easy that was? Right? Now we can focus on business. So I try to remove trust from the equation, number one. Number two, the reason why people, that's the very first thing I
love that, by the way. The remove trust from the equation, whether it's a business partner relationship. I mean, how much money does it cost to have a bookkeeper do disbursements?
Yeah.
Do payment draws. I mean, at a certain point, you're talking hundreds of dollars to avoid
Literally.
millions of dollars of headache.
I mean, look at the cost of typical litigation, because you're going to be in litigation with somebody at some point. Remove trust from the equation. Even in relationships, there's a lot of different ways, and we could talk about it at a different time. But you don't need to have this big, oh my God, I trust you so much, right? And as you said, you're going to trust certain people with certain things. But let's talk about grading people.
Just for saying, you have to install a cough button.
Yeah, I know, right?
Where I can cut the mic and then cough.
That's what I'm trying to get out of the way. But the very first thing I do is I say, sit down, and we're going to build a house. You're going to make a positive and a negative. And I'm going to say a list of names that they provided to me. And the first thought, if it's negative or positive, just write it down. Put their name next to that. I'm going to say the list. First thoughts, put it. Because that's what really counts. The first thought you have somebody, if it makes you smile, it's positive. If it makes you cry, it's negative, right? But then people realize when we make this list, why are all my friends and family on the negative side?
Yeah.
Well, they're the most negative people in your life. Those are the people that are typically going to want you to do well until you do well, right? And jealousy sets in, or they don't believe in it, or that's a scam, and whatever you hear, right? Your friends and family, your closest friends and family are typically the most negative people in your life. Now, that doesn't mean you have to completely cut them out of your life. You just keep them where they belong. It's that simple, right? You just don't have business conversation with your mother if your mother's constantly telling you what you're doing is no good. You know what I mean? You don't have a conversation with your father if he's constantly telling you that your girlfriend's no good. You figure out how to make the relationship as positive as possible, and if it's not as positive as possible, you remove them.
So how does it fit into the house?
So now we have the positives. Talk about a house. And the reason why I use the house as a metaphor is because it's very easy to build. We're going to build a very basic house. You ready? Your foundation. Your foundation is going nowhere. If a tornado comes and blows up the entire house away, the foundation is still there. Who on this list fits that foundation? And they'll be surprised. Oh, it's this friend. Oh, it's this cousin. Oh, it's my mom. Whatever, right? That foundation is built. Now, the walls get put around to keep out the elements. Those walls, they could be knocked down, but it's going to be difficult, right? You'd really have to test those walls to get them knocked down. Who fits there? These people. Now, the roof, and we go through that series. Then we start talking about the inside. Let's decorate this bedroom or this living room. Now, furniture comes and goes. You can change it seasonally. You can change it when you sit on it too much. You can change it when it wears out. You might have the same furniture for 20 years, and it might only be one for a season. Who's the furniture in your life, right? And they literally start picturing these people in these positions in this home. And then they know who is my foundation. Who's the roof that I can go talk to when I'm depending who's gonna keep me out of the rain, who's gonna keep me from getting a sunburn. Oh, that's these people. And they start realizing, okay, so these people can still be in my house, right? But if you're removable, I'll just throw the couch out. You gotta go. So it makes them easier to cope with removing people and keeping them the appropriate. For example, my bedroom furniture. You can change that when you need to, but sometimes you can shut the door and go to the living room. Leave them in there. What about your party friends? That's the nightlife. Put them in the bedroom, right? So we have fun with it, obviously, and it becomes a very interesting metaphor, but it really helps people. But to really get to the root of what you asked is to why are they so apprehensive, is because you have to accept people for who they are. And that is one of the most difficult things you're ever going to do in your life is accept people for who they are, especially your friends and family.
I love it. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think for the first podcast, it was great. Episode 1. Luke G. Croy, I appreciate you being here. And again, we did this thing a little bit different, so you get to know me a little bit, get to know what we're going to do, what we're going to be talking about. Luke will probably be on this many more times as we go along. But that's it. As always, make it happen. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
I love it. Make sure to tell them to subscribe, follow you on Instagram. You'll have all the other details
That's
later.
right,
But
yep. For the algorithms, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, let everybody know about it. If there's anything you liked, let me know. If there's anything you didn't like, let me know. I love corrective criticism. You want to call me an asshole, you don't like my jacket, let me know. We'll switch it up a little bit if I agree with you. That's it, guys. Let's make it happen.